Good afternoon, everybody. This is the April 2024 MSMF Client Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my good man here, Cody Reddy, and Jay Peters. Guys, how you doing?
Great.
Doing good.
Good morning.
Afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you hear this podcast, that's when it is. So, hey, we got a great topic today. We'll give credit where credit's due to our man behind the microphone and not on screen, Craig Raykemper. So thank you, Craig. Did you speak?
You're welcome, Mike.
Okay. Where'd that come from? But I'll set it up with why April is one of our favorite months in this business. And no, it's not because tax day is on April 15th. I'm not a big fan of that, although we all have to play in that game. And it's not because the Masters just occurred. It is because April is Financial Literacy Month. You guys knew this, right? Not everyone does. There is a history to Financial Literacy Month, which I'm going to read to you. Easier if I read it than try to regurgitate it. This comes from none other than the Missouri Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Financial Literacy Month evolved from Youth Financial Literacy Day, introduced by the National Endowment for Financial Education, which we're all familiar with. Clients may not be, but we are. The United States Senate passed a resolution in 2003 officially designating April as Financial Literacy Month. All right. And I think we got to start with, now we knowing that I guess we should be suspect of anything that Congress does, but this is probably a good thing. So, let's start with how we would define financial literacy. And I think we all have a working definition of it. But I come up with a definition here from Investopedia, which I think is quite good. Financial literacy is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. When you are financially literate, you have the essential foundation for a smart relationship with money, which I think that last sentence is the single most important thing.
Agree.
Okay. In terms of some facts and figures, and guys, you know this, our clients are going to know it now. It's really, the facts aren't that great from a financial literacy perspective. Number one, only 57% of American adults are financially literate. In 2024, that's a scary number to me, right? Number two, 77% of Americans are financially anxious, which is certainly not a good way to wake up in the morning. Number three, if I can find it, from our friends over at Fidelity, less than 45% of U.S. adults feel confident making financial decisions because they lack prior knowledge. And then last but not least, kind of a cake topper, 71% of Americans believe they have high financial literacy levels, so they feel like they know what's going on. The average American rates their financial literacy at 6.2 out of 10. And by the way, the last time I checked, 6 out of 10 was a failing score. 6.2 out of 10. This despite the fact that on tests, the average American only answers 35 to 55% of the questions correctly. So, Jay, that tells me people are unrealistic about what they know, and they probably don't really know what they don't know.
Absolutely. The numbers kind of speak for themselves there.
Yeah, absolutely. Other facts and figures before we dive into how to address this. Cody, there is what I'll call a Venus and Mars issues associated with this. That as a father of two daughters, I'm sad to read this, that women are 40% more likely to have low levels of financial literacy. Wow. You have a daughter. How's that smack you in the face?
Doesn't feel good.
Right.
Means I got some work to do.
Right. So, the stats aren't great. I think if we look at the broader picture of financial literacy, it's been a challenge as long as I've been in the business, as long as you guys have been in the business. Cody, tell me, just in your mind, in Cody's words, what's the risk of someone who is not financially literate?
Yeah, it's I think the risk is, from my perspective, is a lot of people think that they don't have anything to start with, and it's not. The risk is, I guess, is not starting early, waiting too long. until you're 10 years out from retirement. You should have started that process 20 years earlier. So that's the biggest risk, and we see it in the stats that further stats we were reading that
Right.
there's a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, and if you're in that boat, you need to make some changes so you can live the lifestyle you live today in retirement. I mean, that's a lot of people's goals, and unfortunately, a lot of people aren't going to get there.
Right. Amen. Jay, your take on what the risk in your mind of financial illiteracy?
Yeah, to kind of expand on what Cody was saying, I think it's kind of two parts. One, I think the obvious is a lot of people are afraid of making a mistake because they don't know something or something like that. But then there's the flip side of it to what Cody's saying there, the opportunity cost of what you could have done had you started sooner.
Right.
So kind of the same thing, but just kind of a different way of saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the risk of mistakes, particularly with that last stat, that people self-assess higher than what they really know. So they don't really know what they don't know. And
Right.
the risk of mistakes there is pretty tremendous. So I know that we like to think that if we just took a subset of our clients and they took this assessment, that their financial literacy score would be quite high. We hope that because that's part of our process is very educational oriented. But what I would say for all of our clients, while you may feel that your financial literacy score is high, that doesn't mean that your tribe, your posse, your generations in your family have that same level of financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like to do today is cover some what we would call the demographics of the people that we work with based on where they are in certain ages and kind of what you guys think are the most important issues. And Jay, let's start with our retired clients who represent a very sizable block of our client base. And when you think of financial literacy, what are the top things you feel like your retired clients need to know and be aware of?
Yeah, and it's really the conversations that we have with our clients all the time, right? The first one is going back to the definition of financial literacy, smart, and so smart spending. We talk about that with our clients all the time. Essential versus discretion. Is this a need or a want? Is this something that maybe we could push off to a later time to do? Those sorts of decisions and things to be thinking about. So I feel like that's kind of number one. Another one that, again, another big topic we're talking a lot about is the cost of some sort of chronic care event. Now, they do have some insurance coverages a lot of times to help take care of that, but that part is a big discussion. What happens if something happens, right? And then the third thing, in not only just what happens, but what can you do? What are your options? That's the literacy part of it, right? And then the third one is to go along with smart spending is where's the source going to be coming from, right? And so we talk with a lot of clients in dividing up into income buckets now, in a couple of years, and then in the future. And so that's another important thing. What is the source of your money? Is it guaranteed? Do we need to be mindful of inflation eating into that? All those different conversations. So again, going back to knowing how everything works or should work.
Yeah, I love the way you put that together because it's minding the expenses and where's the income coming from without a paycheck anymore? You're paying yourself. How are we covering those expenses? And what are the hiccups? Mm-hmm. I mean, just in the time that you've been in the business, the recommendation for how much we need to have as a pool for our clients for an adverse long-term healthcare event has grown substantially.
Yeah,
just because of inflation and the cost of healthcare. So yeah, I love the way you put that. Cody, let's shift gears now and move back to our clients that are at or near retirement. So from a financial literacy perspective, what points are you driving home with your clients to make sure that they're fully aware of what you're coaching them on?
Yeah, I think having a strategy put in place is the number one. It's not getting to retirement and saying, okay, now what do I do? This process starts long before that, but really want to hone down if you're 2 to 3 years out from retirement, starting what Jay said, these income buckets, because it's not a random number that we use 3 years, because usually the average top to bottom to recovery is a 3-year period on average. So it's setting that side that money aside, knowing, hey, I really don't care what happens in the market because I know I got my money set aside that I need to pull out of my portfolio. And, your tax situation, are there some, we call it our financial blueprint. So obviously income planning is important. But when I do get to that retirement stage, are there some tax planning strategies I can do, Roth conversions, whatever it might be, especially with current tax code? And then Social Security and Medicare, understanding what your options are. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to wait till 70. Okay. Well, number one, we don't know how long you're going to live. But yeah, if you live in 85, 90 years old, maybe that was the right decision. But I think more important is, well, you got to pull the money from somewhere. So you're pulling off of your portfolio. What is the opportunity cost? What could have that grown to in the future? So that's things that we help out with and laying those out so you can visually see it and understand how every single little thing kind of has an impact.
Yeah, and I would say, Cody, that's a great point because of all the kind of the age brackets or demographics that we would identify, I think probably the at or near retirement, one where someone could feel like they're really financially literate on everything, but they find out they're really financially illiterate on a lot of things because you're going from accumulation to distribution, whereas in your retirement, you're already in distribution. You've learned all this stuff. Jay's already taught his clients that. Yeah. When you're getting to that point, there's all these other things that come. It's like, holy cow, why didn't I know this before? Well, you didn't need to know it. Right.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you do.
Right.
So it's a constantly evolving and changing landscape, not only because different things become available to you from pre-retirement to retirement, but our friends at the government change things. We were just talking before we started the podcast on some IRA distribution rules that are changing. It can be complex. So staying on top of it, and what we try to do is help our clients stay on top of it is key.
Exactly.
So Jay, and I was just thinking about this, looking at who's in the room. There's a lot of dads of baby girls in this room.
Yeah.
Right. So it must be the water here in this building. But so I have a baby girl who's now semi off the family payroll. Sorry, Rosie, when you see this, it's good fun for me to say that. But she has to now make her own financial decisions. This year, she had to file her own tax return. First time ever, right? A little panic there. So in our clients, Jay, they're in the early working years, like Rosie is. What's your go-to in terms of, okay, here's how we're going to ramp up your financial literacy game. Now that you're working, you're sending a portion of every paycheck to your favorite uncle. What things do you want to make sure the early working years folks need to know?
Yep. For me, I think it really begins with setting the foundations and continuing them and understanding how your retirement plan works, like your 401k or whatever you have available to you. Mm-hmm. Understanding different things like the paying yourself first, setting that aside and saving that for the future. And understanding that, okay, if I can set it aside, if I use these different investment vehicles that compound growth and how that works, it can be really fun to learn, but that's what really makes a big difference in the later stages that we were talking about, right? So understanding $1 today, if I save that, what does that really turn into, right? And then the other one is understanding debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Not all debt is created the same. And some debt really helps you build wealth, and some debt really digs a big hole. And so understanding the rules and some strategies around those different things are super important when you're really starting out and trying to understand different things. And by the way, that means ask a lot of questions, read everything you can. There's a great resource out there called the internet with all kinds of stuff. That's where we got most of our
the internet of things, our stats.
Our stats from today, right? So that's a great resource, but we should be too. Ask questions. And then the last part is understanding and sticking to some sort of budget. How much should you be saving? Where's the best place to save it? How much is appropriate to be spending? Living within our means. Sometimes we kind of get into a hurry of trying to get into a certain lifestyle that we want to be in when maybe we're not quite ready for all those different things yet. Right. So that's kind of what I would be thinking about when you're in your working years is how does everything work and what's my best way to get a plan like Cody was talking about. Yeah,
that's great stuff. And I'll reiterate a point that Craig made that it's not all about you. You wouldn't tell your 20-something client, save everything. You got to enjoy the journey, right? And there's certain things with someone's in their 20s that they can enjoy, to Craig's point, that they really can't enjoy as much or even at all when they're 50 or 60. And there's certain things when they're 50 or 60 they're going to enjoy a lot more than when they're 20. So it's also the type of things you're spending money on. But savings is key. And the debt thing, man, oh man, Jay. And I'll give Rosie a lot of credit because she'll be mad that I said what I said before. But she wanted a Discover card because she wanted the cashback points. She wants the free money. And I never even had to talk to her about paying it off every month. I'm like, are you going to pay it off every month? She goes, well, why wouldn't I? There's no way I'm carrying a credit card balance. I'm like,
Victory.
I know. Big step. We got number one of Jay's 3 big things checked off, and we're rolling. So great stuff. So Cody, let's get younger.
All right.
Let's talk about the Ute of America from Cousin Vinny. So this is where I think that all of us, including our clients, we can help move this needle with our own kids, grandkids, what have you, things that we can do as a firm to get involved in the financial education and financial literacy of the youth of America. And I say that as a wide, big, hairy, audacious goal because we need it. Right? If there were a couple things in terms of a 7th grader, 8th grader that you would sit down and try to explain to them, what would it be?
Yeah. Some people call it the 8th wonder of the world, but it's the power of compound interest.
Amen, brother.
And something I wish I would have done when I was especially earning some wages when I was working was setting up an IRA and putting as much money as you can. It's crazy. There's compound interest calculators out there. Just saving your first 10 years or so when you're able to, and what that can grow to in the future. Wish I would have done that, but hey, live and learn, right? But it's super important to at least have kids have the knowledge and understanding of it. Debt and its impact, kind of what Jay was saying, there's good debt and there's bad debts. Understanding exactly how it works, that most of your payments up front on almost all debt that you're going to have is interest first, and then it pays down the principal. So understanding how that works. We have many clients that are much older today that still don't understand amortization and the power of the banks get their money first.
You're using somebody else's money. They want it back.
Correct.
Unless it's a college education loan, which apparently they don't have to pay back. Sorry, I had to go there.
And then saving versus spending, what all you guys have said, you can't just save every single penny. You got to enjoy your life out there. But what's a good ratio to have?
Sure.
And everyone's going to be a little different with it. But, I would say if you could take a fifth of what you have and save it in sort of investments, cash assets, whatever it may be, you're going to probably be in a good start. And that's a good strategy to carry on through your adulthood. But combining all those and understanding how they all work, because they all work together too, I think is super important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I will say that I think we were shocked when we were looking at some of the data because there are mandates in various states that require high school age kids, which you are familiar with having worked in that environment, and I'm familiar with because my 2 kids are through high school, that require some type of personal financial class. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, Missouri does. I think we were all shocked, or maybe weren't shocked. Illinois does not. There's not just a few states. There's a lot of states that require no personal financial education for even high school kids, which I think is terrible.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing to be able to move this needle and try to get out of this trap I feel like we're in. So there's a lot of things that can be done. But talking to your crew, your grandkids, there's some simple things there that we feel like the Ute need to begin to understand. I think in the grade school age, and then fortunately Missouri, they're going to get a class in high school, which can help expand upon those principles. So in closing on this, I think at all stages, we like wherever our clients are in this age bracket, except maybe even the youth a little bit should understand this. Just the understanding how the government taxes all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And it's pretty simple to me. They tax you when you earn money. Right? They tax you when your money earns money, and they tax you potentially to give it away. So whether you're dead or alive. So right there, it's a basic understanding of income taxation for youth or early working years. And then it gets a little more complicated, as you guys know, but having an understanding of that, I think, is important. You guys both mentioned compound interest. It's huge. And then I think particularly starting with the earlier working years and moving through the whole idea of protection, because crazy things can happen, right? Fortunately, most of our clients, Rosie is an example, very robust benefit package from an insurance perspective. So a lot of protection there. And it's just helping people, I think, understand what those options are, which I know we spend time on, and what makes the most sense given their current age and current family situation. So it's a lot on financial literacy. So to kind of close this out, Cody, in your mind, and again, this isn't a podcast to drive people to work with us, but let's just say broad brush to work with an advisor, any advisor. What do you see as the benefits of that?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, when you look at working with a financial advisor, what people strive for, and always usually the top 3, top 5, doesn't have anything to do with returns of my investments.
Right.
It all has to do with emotional, the reinsurance that working with someone that does this professionally can give a client.
Right.
So yeah, you have we call it the emotional guardrails put up. Knowing that you have a plan put in place. You know, you may not understand how everything works, but you know that, hey, I got a plan, and when I look at it on the financial planning tool, I'm looking good.
Right.
And your financial advisor being they want you to succeed from start to finish. You know, they're basically your coach. And again, all that, we're not talking about numbers on anything.
Right.
We're talking about being able to get you from start to finish and get through retirement, living the lifestyle you want. And it's all an emotional type thing.
Right.
And that's what's important to people.
Yeah, I think the empirical evidence in that is if you look at the average 60 or 90 minute client meeting that we have, there's only a small period of that time that we actually look at numbers.
Right.
It's really about all the non-financial stuff and how all this works and what the path is and the goals and objectives. Because again, the money is a means. It's not the end. It's really the end that we're trying to get them to, right? Jay, I know that Craig found a really, really cool financial literacy assessment that we're gonna include the link. I say we, you and Chris are gonna include the link in the podcast for our clients and whoever they forward this podcast to. Could you talk a little bit about that and what's in there and your thoughts on that?
Sure. So State Street, which is one of our kind of strategic partners for investments and research, they put together a financial literacy assessment, is what it's called. It's really kind of focused more on investments, but it does a great job of looking at some of the basics that I think a lot of people would find interesting to see kind of where they stack up.
Sure.
And so, again, we'll include a link to it. It's just a PDF, so you just read through it and kind of keep track of, okay, that's the one I would pick, right? But it goes through things like compound interest. We've said that how many times, right? Like, just do you really understand that, right? Risk versus return of investments. Some people understand the relationship, maybe not. The drag that fees can have on a portfolio, super important to kind of understand. It's important to us when we're analyzing things, right? Active versus passive investing. There's a whole philosophy around all of that, right? Inflation, diversification, what investment options are even out there. Really cool assessment. So I recommend taking a look at it. I think it's 13 questions off the top of my head. Some of them are even true false. So it's really short, sweet, but kind of gives you an idea of how much do I actually know?
So super. Guys, fantastic job. I know it's a little bit longer podcast than what we've done in the past, but I think that the content's crucial. I would suggest for all of our clients, please share this with your family members, your kids, your grandkids. Sometimes it's easy to have those conversations with kids or grandkids. Sometimes maybe not. Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to kind of go through some of these fundamental financial literacy issues with them, share the podcast with them. All the contact information is at the end of the podcast to reach out to us, email, text line, phone number. So again, April Financial Literacy Month. Let's all move the needle together and make everybody's kind of journey that much more comfortable and financially independent. So thanks for listening. Thanks to Cody and Jay, and we'll see you guys next month.